And yes, and we are live on the episode 4 of our umbraCoffee meetups. And we have a special guest today, which is a Umbraco MVP, Kevin Jump, with us. So,
Hello.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hi. I'm okay. I'm good.
We can see that you're already preparing for Christmas.
Oh, proper Christmas. Christmas is here. There's a tree and we're all ready. I haven't lit the fire, but we're almost there.
Yeah, we have 1 week till Christmas, so there is a lot of things happening. It's not a time when everyone is sleeping and just not doing anything. And our community news are just confirming it, right? There is a lot of things happened this week, and maybe I can start with the huge breaking news announcement which Niels brought to Twitter about new CEO, Umbraco CEO, Ilham. Who will take care of the community engagement. The proper role of her role is Umbraco Community Engagement Officer, and we already reached her to help us with our umbraCoffee meetups and episodes. So we will definitely be using this opportunity and person in Umbraco HQ to put our community activities such as festivals, umbraCoffees, whatever meetups, and anything else on what we will be working on to be closer to HQ, and that's probably the idea behind it, right?
Yeah, I met with her on Wednesday. She came along to the Umbraco London Christmas quiz. She's really nice. First time I've met her, but she's really excited about what they can do to help grow the community and help the people within it. So it'll be good to have like a dedicated person we can contact to talk to about meetups, growing, getting like someone from HQ to attend festivals, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and the next her responsibility probably will be to take care of Danish meetups, because they also announced that Danish meetups are back. And Rune and Ilham will take care probably of the organizing it and making them popular once again. I don't know what was going on with meetups in Denmark lately, but in the original country of Umbraco, there should be a community and an active community for sure.
Yeah, from the description on the blog post that they wrote about the DK meetup, it's been hosted by a variety of different companies over the past couple of years.
Okay.
As companies do, they get a bit busy and then they can't run one, and then there's a while and then someone else takes it over. So Umbraco are kind of bringing it in-house. They want to collaborate with the community still, but having someone like Ilham that's responsible to make sure that it happens is, I guess, progress towards making sure it's more regular.
Yeah,
I do the Liverpool one, and that is mainly why it doesn't happen. Organising venues is so difficult.
So, and it will be organized in the HQ. So that's also an amazing opportunity to visit HQ and see how people in the company who is behind the Umbraco are working and just spending their days and evenings as well.
Yeah,
that's good. Also, we had a 24 days in series this week. Yep. And guys, do you have your favorites articles from this week?
So one of my particular favorites has been Carol's post about turning an Umbraco website or using the Umbraco back office to manage an Alexa skill. So she's done quite a lot of work, and she's spoken quite a lot about using Amazon Alexa, the artificial intelligence by Amazon, the assistant, and how we can tie that into Umbraco. So in this case, she's got like properties that she then reads out via a web API, and the Amazon Alexa skill interprets those and can speak the data, which is really cool.
My personal favorite was the Stevens article about contributing to open source. It was a story behind his involvement to contributing in Umbraco and other open source projects. And I really felt that I was reading my story from the very beginning, because I was also scared about jumping in, contributing to anything. And I was scared about criticism. And it's not so scary at all. And I think that reading stories like that just proves it and encouraging other people to do it. And what about you, Kevin?
Yeah, mine's probably the Alexa one because, as I say, I found that really interesting. There's a different way of using Umbraco. We're a Google Home house, not an Alexa house, so I haven't got around to messing about with it yet. But I'd quite like to take a look at that and maybe see how to do it on the other one because that'd be good. It'd be nothing like running our house and getting my kids down the stairs using Umbraco and Google Home to shout at them. So that's my aim for next year.
That's cool. Yeah, a lot of interesting articles coming, and we're still waiting for another bunch till Christmas. So there will be definitely more of them, and we are all probably looking forward to them. Yeah, speaking about other news, Umbraco new release was announced on Tuesday. It was 7.7. Yeah, the great sevens. And yeah, I was checking the new features and what has changed using this compare tool on our. And it has 2 issues and task fixed, so it's not a huge release, but still it's good to have new release and new updates released whenever something will be fixed, I think. So that's good, and it's easier for us to update and to maintain solutions and to let them be really up to date.
It's quite a big release in terms of one of the fixes in there. There's a big fix for load balancing. So people were having issues when you publish something, it didn't get added to the cache across a variety of across your kind of front end nodes. So this fixes that, which is nice. So yeah, anyone running a Umbraco site at scale may have had a few pain points with that in recent times on newer versions, and this fixes it, which is good for them.
Good for all of us.
Good for all of us.
And yeah, and we had also a massive chat about nested content feature requests and about releasing changes and everything else inside the packages and internal features in the core. And I personally named this episode about an open source spirit because I thought that being on the both sides of the open source project is tough. And it's not only scare and anything like that from the contributor perspective, but also from the maintainer. And accepting or rejecting pull requests is not easy. And we've been discussing it before we've started that we had probably the same opinion about it. So yeah, we will share the link to the discussion about the feature request. And as Niels requested, if anyone will have time to put their thoughts and maybe scenarios, use cases, anything like that to help Umbraco and help everyone involved in this issue or feature request make a decision or think about decision, it's also a contribution.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, who haven't heard about this, so there was a discussion on Twitter around the end of last week during the weekend where people were discussing about a couple of issues that are on the issue tracker. They have been for a little while that relate to nested content in the Umbraco core. So nested content has a feature in it that allows you to enable and disable your nested content items, but that feature wasn't brought through into the Umbraco core. So a few people made a pull request to add that feature, and it's just kind of sat there for a little while. So there was a bit of a discussion around why it sat there, and people were encouraging people to go and vote for the issue. And Niels jumped in and he said, well, there's maybe a reason why we've not put it in there. We kind of wanted the implementation to be simple. And we're not going to add one feature that 1,000 users want because the other 250,000 users at the CMS may not want it. We really need to consider from like an editor's perspective, that sort of thing, the changes that we make. It got a little bit heated at some points where there was discussion around like, well, who's actually the guardian of features in an open source project? And it comes back to what Marcin was saying about this open source spirit. So it should be collaborative. There shouldn't really be one owner or gatekeeper, but at the same time, there does need to be some control and some decisions need to be made by a kind of single body, which would be Umbraco HQ. And Niels really encouraged people, instead of just voting for something, instead of just going, yeah, I agree with this, actually voice your opinion and say why you agree with it. Give use cases, help Umbraco understand why this feature is really useful. There's a lot of discussion on there. Niels has made it very clear on Twitter he wasn't trying to be resistant. He wasn't trying to. Yeah, he wasn't trying to cause problems. He's not disagreeing that there is a need for this, but he is saying, yeah, just kind of let's collaborate and try and find a good solution for this. Maybe the solutions that have been proposed so far weren't the perfect solution.
Yeah, Niels is very much, he's always said from the beginning, hasn't he, it's all about how simple it is to build a site in Umbraco, and he values the simplicity of the UI, and it's sort of like the thing he's really passionate about. And I think it's two elements, because there is an element of it would be really useful to have, but if you just accept every element, every request that comes in, you end up with this really complicated content management system. And so I think from Niels' point of view, he's trying to say, let's not overcomplicate it by accepting these, but equally I can see it really would be a nice little feature to have. It might not be perfect. And so there's an element of the trade-off. And it is quite difficult. I wouldn't know which to do if I was in his position. So.
Yeah, and during this time, even Matt Brailsford suggested the solution for one of those issues, just using what's inside of the nested content and Umbraco already. So it's more about finding maybe solutions for those problems and how other people already did it, and maybe just improve what's not there yet, and if it's really required and needed for editors and developers using it.
Yeah, and that Matt contributing that is a really, really good example of why the community works so well, because Matt, the original author of nested content, kind of came in and backed up Niels and said, yeah, maybe it wasn't designed to be that way, but maybe there's an alternative way we could do it with what we've got. And he admitted again, yeah, the proposed implementation for this button is not perfect, and this isn't perfect either, but it is a solution. And people decide for yourselves which ones you want to use. I think it's pretty clean, the way he's described it. It's maybe not editor friendly, or is editor friendly is just a button, like a show hide button, but at the same time it's not unfriendly either. There's a simple, we'll share a link to it, but there's a disable button on each of the nested content items. You can just tick that. It gives you an indication if it is disabled in the nested content label, and on the front end then you can just check to see if that value's been set, and you can hide it. So it does give you gives you the functionality with what's there currently. It was interesting to see, perspective from Matt, the original author, how they would envisage actually doing that.
Yeah, and speaking about extending Umbraco, we have our guest here, and Kevin, you are on fire with releasing new versions and new packages. We placed your releases on our schedule for this episode. It was you were planning to release Translation Manager on Friday. I remember your tweet.
Yeah, I did it on Monday. Don't do Fridays.
People who are watching it, please don't release on Friday, because we cannot catch it up during the umbraCoffee. But yeah, you've released the new version of Translation Manager, which is an awesome package for helping us and editors to translate content in Umbraco. You also released using Health Checker beta and linked pages package. So please tell us all how you are doing it, when you're finding this time, and what are your plans for the next releases.
Well, the health check is a cheat, because actually the code's over a year old. I just hadn't put it into a package. So it looks like I'm doing loads when actually I'm just going through stuff I hadn't packaged up from a year ago. But at the moment, I've got a bit of a time, because projects have been delayed till next year. So I just thought I'd finish some stuff off. Translation Manager is one of those big packages that just needs constant little tweaks, like usync. I mean, in that, I think another version of usync's probably come out. So they're not massive feature releases, but they just sort of trundle along. And Translation Manager is reasonably new. So I think the thing that's in the latest release is to fix what happens when you've got a macro inside a grid, inside something like nested content, inside something like photo. So it's something odd. Someone will say, I've got this set up and this doesn't quite work. And you go, we'll just make sure. But it's not actually, it's just tweaking. Most of them are tweaks, but they need to go. But really, it's just about having a bit of time and doing things, because you learn from them. So the linked pages one is only because, I mean, it ties in a bit to Translation Manager, because that's how it uses relations to manage the languages between sites. And actually, the interface for that isn't great. If you forget to do the copy when you set your sites up, re-establishing links between language sites isn't easy. And someone was mentioning something on their Slack channel, and I thought, well, I've been thinking about that for a while, so I'll just do it. And so it actually only took like a day, probably not even that. But it's a learning experience. I learned all about permissions inside the new groups inside Umbraco. So it's using those things as an opportunity when you've got time just to get a new thing, put it on. So I've done that. So it was fun. And the health checker, again, I did it about a year ago, but it didn't seem that useful. But in Umbraco 7.7, they put that scheduled health check in where it emails you. I thought it's more useful now. So it makes sense to package it up. Yeah, just float along in general.
You mentioned there about kind of maintaining packages, so everything being a little tweak here and there. Also, someone raising, oh, I've tried to use your package inside another package, and it's kind of blowing up. And definitely for me in this past week, I've been dealing with quite a few things on some of the Cogworks packages where people have raised help and questions, not necessarily feature requests or bugs, but questions about how to implement certain things in the package and how to work with it. And it's been quite, I'd say, a challenge, because some of the things are perhaps basic questions, and I've been really trying to go back in a constructive way and answer properly without being like the whole Stack Overflow community and going, no, you're rubbish, go and learn how to code.
Don't use it this way.
It's really hard when someone just says, I get error. And you're like,
I got this, I did this and I got this error. Okay, can you tell me what you're trying to do? Can you explain what your implementation is? Show me some code and maybe I can try and help. And it sometimes takes a few days back and forth to actually get their solution right and understand fully exactly what they're trying to do. But I don't know, I find that quite tough, being able to, having to sit there and help someone, maybe even help someone learn. They may be using Umbraco for the first time or .NET for the first time, and you don't want to patronize them, and you just kind of want to be really plain and simple with them, and just, okay, this is how the package works. Maybe you've not used it in the right way. That's one of my personal pain points with open source software, and it's only really become prominent in the past couple of weeks, where people have been using these packages for the first time. And
it's harder at the beginning. I can speak from the experience of things like usync. That's fairly stable now. That's years old, and so that just trundles along. And in fact, that's almost got a release schedule behind it now. It's so mature that I actually don't release that all the time. It's every couple of months. Because there's very rarely something comes in that's, oh, this actually breaks the way people are using it. But equally, there's an awful lot of depth on the forums over time, so I don't get some of those questions that you do with new packages. So, Translation Manager, and I don't know over the nature of it because it's a bit more front endy. I'm getting questions that are a lot less people understanding how development of Umbraco works, and you've just got to work through it. But equally, it helps you build the package better at the beginning.
Yeah,
so
that's why speaking about this open source spirit, and we are mentioning it all the time. It's not only about writing code. It's also about finding errors and reporting them correctly and with the proper use case or scenario how to reproduce them. It saves a lot of time for maintainers and for creators, because working with the same code base, we all know that it's not so easy to find bugs and issues with our own code, because we know how to use it usually. But if you are faced with your users and how they are using it, and it might and for sure will be different way of usage, it's for you and for the project to report it correctly. That's why I found myself spending a lot of hours trying to answer questions on Stack Overflow 2 for all those newcomers and people who were just trying to play with Umbraco and features inside of it, and they were doing it wrong. So that's also helped.
I avoid Stack Overflow. I don't like it. So I'll steal solutions from it, but I'm never asking a question on it.
I don't know if anyone saw the thing that James South retweeted over the weekend about someone asked their first question about a CSS question on Stack Overflow, and within a minute it had 9 downvotes or something insane, and people were just ripping into them. And actually, that's not the way to encourage anyone to get into.
I think it's different on the Umbraco community. I think the difference I notice is, and I consciously try it, when people ask questions and they say, I can't get this to work, the Stack Overflow answer is usually, why on earth would you do it like that? You're just stupid for even trying it that way. Whereas in the Umbraco community, I think people say, well, you can do it like that if you want, and here's maybe how that'll work, but you might also want to look at these other options, as opposed to just saying, you're stupid for doing it the wrong way, go away, which is what Stack Overflow like. But the Umbraco community is much more, try not to question why someone's doing something a certain way, because you've got no idea what's going on in the project. So I just try and give people answers to the questions they're asking. But if I know there might be a better way to do it, I also add that and say, this is probably the answer to what you're trying to do, the way you're trying to do it. But you might want to look at these other ways which might be better for you. And they might not, because I don't know your project.
Yeah, and something I've found when, like I mentioned, with helping people using my packages and saying, okay, I don't know how, I can't get this working, it's not entirely clear. I've started taking the approach of, okay, then maybe my documentation's not clear enough, or maybe the implementation's not clear enough. Is there a way that I could improve this for this person next time, so that they don't go down this rabbit hole of a solution that's maybe not ideal? We can have documentation and more examples of how you'd implement certain things. And there's been a few cases recently where I've updated the documentation off the back of an issue. So not only from a community point of view, from a developer point of view, we can actually take this feedback on board and go, maybe we can be more helpful for other people in future.
And I've just reminded myself that Sophie from Umbraco has also a new role of taking care of documentation in the project and making it better and better. And I think that a good wrap up of those thoughts is that what we are doing usually with our packages and with our extensions, we are doing it for users who will be using it and editors who will be using it, not us, because we may need one single feature from it, and it has hundreds of them, which will be more helpful than this single one, which was helpful for us. And we should listen, we should talk and discuss and be open for criticism, opinions and everything else which may help us and our products become better and better. That's my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
And we are getting to the end of our time. We have some announcements, additional stuff to mention. Callum?
Yeah, so just quick things to wrap up. We've mentioned a few times over the past few episodes about Umbraco Down Under Festival, UDUF as it's been called, and we've been waiting for that schedule to be announced for quite a long time, and it has. It was announced earlier this week. The lineup is really fantastic. I'm on it, so it would be it's brilliant. They've got some of the HQ big guns like Niels and Shannon going. They've got Microsoft MVPs there. So Aaron Powell is Microsoft MVP and quite active in the Umbraco community. James South is going to be talking. Shannon's an MVP as well. Obviously, from Cogworks side, myself and Anthony Dang are going to be doing talks separately, so we'll both be there. In addition to that, they've got Paul Sterling, who now works for ProWorks, but used to work for HQ. They've got a load of people coming and doing some talks. So it should be a really, really good festival. I'll be going down there in February. Flights booked, all good to go. So really looking forward to that. Maybe we can do a special Down Under episode.
Yeah, we need to. And we will have another special episode a lot closer to that in next week on 22nd of December, just before the Christmas. We will have our first special episode, which will have some special guests, and we will reveal it somehow, or maybe not fully during the week.
We'll reveal some more details during the week, but it'll be a special Christmas-themed episode, and we'll talk about some Umbraco stuff and with some special guests as well.
That's right. And of course, as usual, we'll place all the links and all the stuff in the description in this movie. And as all YouTubers saying, feel free to subscribe, link, comment, share, whatever else. And we will also share a survey on Google Forms, which is for us, and it can help us and our umbraCoffee episodes become better in the future. So feel free to contribute to it as well. And that's all from our side, Ryan?
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah. So have an amazing rest of the day and the weekend all. And thanks for your time. Thanks, Kevin, for your time.
Thanks, Kevin.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. See you all.
Bye.
Bye.